Hi guys, this is one of the introduction type videos in which we'll be exploring various methods that the stage object has, or the stage class rather. And that's one of the first types that you encounter in JavaFX, because that's how you open a window. You extend the application class and you override the start method, in which you call stage show. Before calling stage show, which will open the window, there are a few things you can do, such as set the scene. Scene object contains the scene graph information. In other words, it contains the stuff that you're going to be putting on the screen. Let's just create an empty scene for now, and that should do. So we have a stage. So this window, which we're really used to calling window, in JavaFX it's called a stage, in which you can set scenes and so on. So we'll have a look at various things that you can do with this window. Obviously you've got the three sort of icons to work with. You have the minimize button, you have the maximize button, and you have the close button. These are provided by default, and they can be, well, altered by calling init style, which initializes the JavaFX stage style to something different. And if you read the documentation, it will tell you that there are various things you can do with it. Decorated is probably the default one. You have undecorated, which will get rid of the buttons. So we have a window, but we don't have the decorations around the window, as it were. So there are no close, maximize, and so on buttons, which means you don't really have a way to exit your application, which is not great. So make sure that you have some other way of exiting the application when you're building an undecorated stage. That's usually done to kind of create a unified look on all operating systems, as in the same look on all OSs. Whereas if you go with decorated, you end up with platform-specific window. What else can we do? It's worth noting that init style should be called before you show the window. Otherwise, it'll probably throw an exception. There are other things you can do, such as set x. Let's set it to 0. And then comment this out, so I have a way of closing the window. This will move the window to x equal to 0, or somewhere around there. That's something that you can call in order to position your windows as needed at the start of your program. There are also other things. You can also call this sort of at runtime to move your window if needed. But generally, you don't want to be moving windows around, because the user typically does that. Any other interesting methods that we can find? You can obviously close the window. Suppose we have a button somewhere here. Let's create a button. We covered buttons, so I can use button class. Connection. Then we can do something like this. This basically says create a button with text close, and when the button is clicked, do something. That something is stage.close. So we can add our button to our pane, which will get rendered probably at 0, 0. And then we can press on that button to close our stage. So this is a useful method to know if you're planning to manually manage your windows. Let's have a look. What else can we do with a stage? You can also position in the y-axis as well. Is focused. Can we make it focused? Okay, I'm going to skip focus stuff now. These are various things that you can get. So the width, the height of the window, in case you want to, I don't know, do something with this information. There's also get icons, which is, as far as I can remember, you can add an image and that image will be displayed as the icon. So if we don't do anything with this just yet, we run it, we should see a sort of default icon. So over here, this is our default Windows icon saying, well, you don't have one. Can we replace this with something? Get the icon images. Yep. The images should be different sizes of the same image. Best size will be chosen. So it seems to be 16 by 16, 32, 32, and so on. How about we make a 32 by 32 image? So if we create a writable image, um, 32 pixels by 32 pixels, and we are just going to make it color something. This is Y, this is X, image, get pixel writer, set ARGB. Let's go with this one, color red. That's much more readable. And then we're just going to add this image. Let's see if this works. If it does, it should have a red icon. So you can see that in the top left corner, we now have an icon for our window and therefore application. You can't see my taskbar, but it also has, I think it's called taskbar, right? The bottom line on Windows. And the icon there is also this red square. So in case you haven't used get icons, this is how you add an icon to your application / window. And obviously it doesn't have to be software generated image. You can just load an image, make sure it fits 32 by 32 or 64 by 64 and so on. I don't know if other image sizes are going to work, but according to the documentation, this is what we should use. So that's that. What else can we do with the stage? Modality, that's if you have multiple windows, like if you are opening a dialog window, you want it to be not, you don't want to be able to click through to your main window if you have a dialog window open. Specifies the owner. I've never really used this, so I have no idea what it does. Maybe it's for, like, if you close the owner window, the child window also gets closed. I know, play around with it. But you need another window for that. Set always on top. I think this will make sure that even if it's not focused, the window is still on top of other windows. So here it is focused, and if I click inside here, now my IDE is focused. However, the JavaFX window is still on top of the IDE window. So that's what we can use in order to always keep this on top for whatever reason. What else can we set? We can go full screen. Let's try that. Okay, this is the window going full screen, occupying everything. As far as I can remember, this is not exclusive full screen. I think this is just making the window borderless and then kind of just drawing on top of everything else. Yeah, from the way it kind of closed super quickly, I can tell that it's not exclusive full screen. Plus, it's supposed to be 800 by 600. So if you do this same exercise with AWT, like swing, I think it will actually change your resolution. I remember in the Open JavaFX mail listings, there was a discussion that we should not have this ability in JavaFX, but I don't remember the reason for that. And these are the things you can set. If you remember just a while ago when I went full screen, it said something like press escape to exit. And these are the hints and the key combinations that allow you to exit your full screen mode. What's that one do? Let's add a button. Button icon. Iconify. Okay. It's not going, well, it's going to be rendered on top of this. I'm just going to move it slightly. Translate Y50. Oh, I didn't actually add anything. An icon set on action. Is it minimize? I think it's just minimized it. So play around with this. I think iconify means minimize. Full screen maximized. Okay, I'm not getting what this is saying. But based on what it did, I think it just minimizes your application, possibly. Let's see what else we can do. Set title is most straightforward one. Hello stage, JavaFX. Full screen, no, I don't want full screen. And we can see the title. Hello stage JavaFX. So whatever you set here as a string is going to be demonstrated here in the sort of top border of your window, provided the decorations are turned on. We can set maximum width, I think. So if we do something like this and max height, 720. Then we should be able to go above that and get to just 1280. So I can't make it larger in the x-axis. And then similarly, the y-axis grows up to a certain value, which is 720. It's useful if you know the exact dimensions of your content, so you don't want users to be able to resize above that. And you can also set minimum width and height, set min, and so on. Now, I think I saw resizable over here somewhere. Set resizable. False. Now, this is interesting. I think this will disable any kind of resize. Yeah. So that's what you use if you know, well, if you want to force the window to be exact dimensions and the user won't be able to do anything about it if you set it to resizable false. Event dispatcher, I don't know. I've never used this one. I'm interested to find out. Event dispatcher specifies the event dispatcher for this node. Well, for a start, a window should not be a node, right? Because if it was a node, then you would be able to put it inside the seeing graph, which creates a circular dependency. Yeah, window is not a node. Good. So I'm assuming this was just copy pasted from somewhere. Default event dispatcher sends the received events to the registered event handlers and filters. Yeah, if you want to open an issue for a documentation review so that this gets updated, you might want to do that. What does it actually do? So let's see, event dispatcher. Oh, interesting. So I think what this does is whenever there is an event in your application in one of the nodes, which is going to sort of traverse down and then up because of how the event mechanism works in JavaFX. At some point it's going to reach this, and I'm assuming you are able to do something with it. But like I said, I've never used this, so I don't know exactly what to do with it. Stage, what else can we set? Force integer render scale. I think this is new. I don't remember seeing this. Yeah, so it's since 9. Render scale properties. Is this for DPI stuff? Like currently my desktop is scaled up to 200% because I'm on 4K screen, but I'm using it as 1080p sort of primarily. So everything is 200%. And if I do false, is this just going to reduce the window to actual 800 by 600 pixels? Nope, that's still exactly the same size. What happens if I set it to true? It's not making any difference. So force integer render scale. Force integer. Does that mean if you go like 2.5, it will just make it 2 or 3. Not sure. Set on close request. Okay, that one I know. It's called when you click on the X button. So you have this X button, right? Depending on your OS, it's going to look different. If you click on that, the first thing to be notified, well, I don't know if it's the first thing, but it will be notified eventually, is this event handler, in which you can do some stuff. For example, you can consume the event, which is going to make things interesting, because that means the event won't travel any further, so it won't reach that event handler that says, I'm going to exit the application. So if you click on it, the event gets consumed, and we print closing, but nothing actually happens. And for that, we have this manual close button, which we can use. In case you want to have your own handling, like FXJL does, for example, it consumes the sort of native event, and it then asks the user whether they really want to exit the game or some kind of an application. This is something you can do here, like consume the event, show the dialog, do you really want to exit type thing, because some applications do that. What else? Stage set. On hidden. These are straightforward. If the window is being hidden or on hiding, so these are slightly different in terms of when they're called. Opacity. That I didn't use, and I don't know if that's actually going to change stuff. That could be interesting. Slightly sort of transparent window. Wait, what? We have the ability to do that? Well, I suppose that it still doesn't sort of create the blur effect. Because I remember just recently doing a window blur, which just captured the contents behind the window and then drew inside the window and blurred them. And this is kind of a very similar effect, but there is no blur. So, but it does create a very, okay, I can't close it that way. Very interesting effect. I might actually use this for something. Like, I genuinely did not know that. That's pretty cool. And that's also, like, I don't have anything inside the window. What happens if I make it, like, black or something? Rectangle. So it's black background and then the buttons. Okay, this is really interesting. I need to play around with this a bit more. Maybe turn it into a tutorial or something to do some effects. Because that looks really nice. I'm just going to try this very quickly and then see if it gives any interesting results. Set, how do you blur? Box blur the whole thing. And width and height. Iterations, I know, 3. And then put this thing in here. It's going to have any effect because blurred rectangle is basically nothing. That's still interesting. Like, it doesn't, well, obviously it's not going to blur the background, because the contents of the background are not inside the scene graph. Nevertheless, this is a very interesting effect. I definitely need to play around with this more. Okay, that aside, what else can we do? Set render scale. And then user data. Well, width and height are straightforward. I'm not going to do that. User data is some kind of object that you can store, that you can then obtain from somewhere else. But render scale is interesting. So if I do something like 1.2, what's that going to do? I'm not sure if it even does anything. Maybe it needs to be used in conjunction with something else, because that's not making anything look different. So these were all the set methods. Anything interesting? These are just query methods to back to front. If you have multiple windows, you can move them around. Show and wait is usually for stuff like dialogues. You can request focus if you have multiple windows again. But everything else is we kind of covered. Oh, you can center on screen. Okay, yeah, let's do that one. We set X to 0 and then it should kind of just recenter it on screen anyway. Cool. Right, so in this video we looked at the stage class, specifically the primary window that JavaFX platform gives us to play with. We've called a bunch of methods that it provides us with, just to test what they do and see if it really does anything. Certain methods I haven't really figured out what they do. But for the majority of use cases, what we covered should be sufficient. So if you've never used Stage to its full extent, then there might be some things, hopefully, that you can take away from this video so that you can start using it in your own applications. I'm planning to do something similar with other object types because there are lots of JavaFX controls, for example, and there are different types of objects in JavaFX as well. Certain things that I've never really used because I don't sort of do certain types of applications. So that would be quite interesting to explore. In any case, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later.